I just made this video about why resellers feel broke and laid out a business model where if a reseller was able to buy items for $5 or less and be able to sell items for $30 or more, then they would be able to achieve 5K net profit per month in 3 to 6 months if they listed 9 items per day. Now, the key to making this model work was finding items with at least a 50% 90-day sell-through rate and listing the same amount every single month, which worked to be about 270 items per month. I was met with a ton of heartwarming comments from resellers that found clarity and felt ready to smash their 5K goal. But I was also met with some sellers who didn't believe that finding 270 items per month with that kind of demand was even possible. If you're a reseller who is thinking that that sounds like a lot, but you do want to meet a 5K net profit per month goal, I made this video for you to show you exactly how to put sourcing on easy mode so that you can capitalize on what most resellers don't. It is not impossible. It just feels impossible because you can't yet repeatedly do it. The question is not, is it possible? Because it is. But the question should be, how can I get to a point where I can consistently do this? And that mindset shift will change everything for you. Whenever I'm faced with a really big problem in my business or what may seem like a giant task, the first question that I always ask myself is, how can I make the greatest impact in the shortest amount of time possible? Especially if you are somebody who is feeling like the future is bleak. Maybe you're not really motivated. Maybe you don't think that the net profit that you want to make per month is even possible, whether that's due to not being able to get enough in-demand items or you're just already not seeing consistent sales. This question, how can I make the greatest impact in the least amount of time, is so important because it's going to position you in a place where you're going to get motivation quick. And so how do we have a great impact on sourcing in a short amount of time? The answer is the strategy that I'm about to walk you through. And by the way, this strategy is something that every reseller can use. And in my opinion, every reseller should use as a sourcing stream and apply it to your business because it's going to help you to find quick selling items without even trying that hard. To set the stage, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to imagine yourself walking into a thrift store and looking at the entire sales floor. About 90% of that thrift store is filled with the same handful of brands. What are the 5 brands that your thrift store is filled with? For me, it was Old Navy, Under Armour, American Eagle, Land's End, and Goodfellow. Now, here's what I need you to understand. Most resellers are banking all of their efforts on the other 10% of the thrift store, which are the interchangeable brands that fill that 10% gap. Those would be the things that aren't in the 5 brands that you come across the most, where your high sell-through rate bolos fall into, maybe brands that you're not frequently come across, but most resellers are focused on that small 10% of interchangeable brands and items. We're learning bolo brands that we aren't very likely to come across. And while you do want to know them in case you ever do come across them, that shouldn't be where your focus is because it's just not what's likely to happen. It's not what's abundant in your area. Most of the time, you're going to be looking at and sifting through 90% of the thrift store. How do we capitalize on that? How do we shift most of our efforts to the 90% instead of the 10% since we have it more abundantly? 2 things. Number 1, we need to regularly study, learn, and find the bolos and brands that are within the 90%. Number 2, most importantly, if we learn what to skip in those brands, then we don't need to sift through 90% of the thrift store. Every single brand has items in it that regularly sell quickly and for good money. And wouldn't it be awesome if you knew what those were, since those brands are abundant in your area and you are extremely likely to find them? Plus, most resellers are not doing this, which means that you're going to have a unique advantage to be able to find bolos with no competition. Great impact in a short amount of time with no barriers. So I've gone over how to do this exactly in this Stop Watching Thrift Hauls video if you want a more in-depth walkthrough, but I'm going to really quickly just show you how to find the bolos in the bad brands. You're going to start by going to eBay or whatever platform you sell on. I find eBay to be the easiest because it's the easiest to calculate sell-through rate. And it's the one with the most buyers, so more data. Let's say you're going to pick a brand that is abundant in your area. You're just going to simply search that brand. For me, I'm going to do Under Armour. Now you can decide based on your own business model, do you want to filter down to men's or women's? I'm just going to leave it on all categories right now. And we want to filter to what we're actually going to be coming across. And since most of us shop at thrift stores or some form of pre-owned items, we're going to click on the pre-owned filter. We are going to go to our sold so we can study what's regularly selling. And then here is the most important filter, which is the one a lot of people skip. We want to filter it to only be studying what we actually want to buy. So what's going to fit your sourcing goals in order for you to meet your net profit goals. If you're using the example that I used in that previous video and you want to sell things regularly for $30 or higher, then let's make your minimum $30 and you can exchange that for, again, whatever is going to work for you. I'm going to do $30 today. So now I am only seeing things that sold for $30 or more. I'm only seeing things that are pre-owned and things that have recently sold. What I like to do is get a little notepad and just start writing down everything that I'm seeing show up more than once. So whatever is regularly coming up. So I am scrolling and immediately I've now seen 2 pairs of camo pants. So I would write down camo pants. I'm scrolling and I'm seeing some different shoes. So maybe I want to write down Under Armour shoes. I've seen multiple men's joggers in a size extra large. So you want to do this for a few pages until you've got a really decent list on your hands, and then you want to go do sell-through rate checks for those items. So you'll want to open up eBay in a brand new tab so that your filters are cleared out. And then just because something shows up once or twice on a solds page does not mean that it has a strong demand. So we still want to go check sell-through rate so we can compare how much is available versus how much is sold. So let's say at the end of that list, I've got Under Armour joggers, men's in a size extra large. I'm going to search Under Armour joggers. I'm going to make sure I'm in the men's department. I am going to go to pre-owned and I'm going to filter to a size extra large since that was the size I kept seeing popping up. I have 1,100 available, 348 sold. So that would tell me that there's a decent sell-through rate, but not 50%. So I would cross that off of my list. From here, I could even dig down deeper if I wanted to. Maybe I want to try an additional size. And just to show you guys that there are specific things within these brands that do have great sell-through rates, if you type in Under Armour joggers in the men's category pre-owned and you go to the size extra large tall, there are 5 available and 11 sold. So that's like a 200% sell-through rate. Strong demand on that specific size. Then I would ask myself, does this meet the minimum requirement that I would need in order to sell this for $30 plus? Most of these are selling for $25, so probably not. But the point is that there are things with a strong high sell-through rate demand that you could be picking up within brands that you frequently come across. So I would go through my entire list, do sell-through rate checks, and that's how I would determine what is selling well within my sourcing goals in this brand. And just a really quick tip for you, something else I like to do is go to sorted and change it from the default of ended recently to highest first. That'll give me some of the outliers of some of the big cool things that I could be getting bolos in these brands, like collaborations with Balenciaga or specific Under Armour compression shirts. I recommend doing this about once a week for one brand only, and I spend about 30 minutes doing it, and then the next week I'll pick a new brand to do it with, and you'll eventually, depending on how many brands you need to go through, you'll eventually learn all of the brands that you frequently come across, and it's going to make it easier for you to get through 90% of the thrift store. If there is about 5, it's going to take you 5 weeks to understand 90% of the thrift store. If it's a list of 10 brands, it'll take you about 10 weeks. And it's really not that long of time if you stick with it to conquer majority of the thrift store. When you're doing research, you only need to memorize the items that are fitting your sourcing goals and the sell-through rate goals that you have. Each brand may have 5 or less things in them, and that's super easy to remember versus trying to memorize all of the Bolo brands all of the time for every single thing. But what's even more important is if they aren't on your list of Bolos, then they don't need to be looked at. If there's 5 things in Under Armour that fit my sourcing constitution and will work for me, then that means that everything else is unnecessary to even look at. I see too many resellers wanting to touch every single hanger at the thrift store, and that's going to cause you hours of time. If you know what's good, it is really easy to just walk past the rest of it, and knowing what to skip is even more important than knowing what to get because there's way more of what you should skip versus how much you should actually get. And that will help you to eliminate a lot of time in your sourcing process if you're not handling every single item. When I enter an aisle at the thrift store, I ask myself, what am I actually looking for? What are the only things that would be worth getting? For instance, if I walk into the leggings aisle, I know that there's like a handful of brands, styles, or sizes that I'm looking for. And so it's really easy to let those just kind of pop out of at me and not even touch the rest. Getting through thrift stores faster and getting to more of them is the key to finding great items. At the end of the day, each thrift store has the same amount of bolos in them, whether you take 30 minutes in the store or you take 4 hours. It's all about how fast can you spot them and how much of the thrift store can you eliminate looking at every single thing because you know it's not good. As a recap, in today's video, we talked about the mindset shift from asking yourself, is it possible, to how can I do this consistently? 90% of the thrift store is made up of the same brands. If you can figure out what to get and what to skip in those brands, you'll have 90% of the thrift store conquered. Memorizing bolos and the brands that you frequently come across will not only bulk up your sourcing, but it's also going to be super easy because nobody else is doing it. All right, guys, that's all I have for you today. I hope that these concepts are helpful to you, and I hope that they help you to make sourcing easier. Try this strategy when you go. Start to experiment with your research and start learning 90% of the thrift store so that you can just blow through it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!